Go.
Okay, we are presenting Massachusetts. This is where Massachusetts is located, and this is Massachusetts state flag. Okay, let's start with history, and I'll be doing history. So let's start with the Salem witch trials. So this family did not like the Puritans, and the Puritans were afraid of evil spirits and witchcraft, so the family decided to do witchcraft, and also witchcraft is involving evil spirits. So anyways, the trials started on a cold winter day in 1692 in Salem Village. And so in the house there were 2 slaves, and nobody in the town knew about it, especially the governor. And so back to the trials. So during the trials, the townspeople had other things to worry about too. They had to worry about the new charter so they can keep their land, and people with sickness such as smallpox, and the rest of the Salem witch trials remain hidden. Now we're going to reveal our timeline. Okay, so up top is Massachusetts events, and down here is the U.S. events. And so I'll start. In 1600, 12,000 Wampanoag live in the southeastern Massachusetts, also Rhode Island.
In 1602, Bartholomew Gosnold explores the Massachusetts Bay. He himself names Cape Cod.
In 1607, the first permanent English settlement is established in North America at Jamestown.
1619, Squaw Swatchman, a girl, leaves Massachusetts sadly after her husband's death.
In 1619, the first African indentured laborers in North America purchased in Jamestown.
Pilgrim found Plymouth. 1629, Pilgrim found Plymouth colony, second permanent English settlement.
In 1630, the Puritans are established in Massachusetts Bay Colony, also Boston as capital city.
1675, King Philip starts war.
In 1692, witchcraft trials take place on a cold winter day.
1773, colonists rebel with Boston Tea Party.
Now, special events, like it said on the timeline, King Philip's War, and the Boston Tea Party happened on December 16th, 1773, and it was a political protest. And the settlers were from England. The founder was John Winthrop in 1630, and Massachusetts was named Massachusetts tribe named Massachusetts, and Massachusetts in that tribe language means large hill area. The success of the colony, so what you had to do was make what you need, like clothing, sheets, and other stuff. Crops, which Lauren will tell you later, rules. There were a lot of rules, so you always had to use your politeness. Mostly you had to focus on God because they had a very high belief on God. And you had to go to church on every Sunday. You only had to go once, not twice. And dancing was forbidden, which is kind of actually surprising. And failure, sickness, like I said, smallpox, and heart attack, and food supply. Once they first came, food supply, they didn't have that much food, so, and they had like a lot of settlers coming, and they ran out of food after like 5 months. And here's
Okay, kind of. Winter was very cold, especially with the lack of clothes they had. Spring was fairly warm at some points, and fairly cool also at points. Some points. Also, summer it was really hot, especially with the work outside and the jobs they all had to do. Fall was warm and cold at different times, or they could be at the same time. Leftover land. Having some trees left over because people had to make houses and a wooden barrier. People had sewage water because the water wasn't as fresh back then. And they don't have the technology that we do have now. Resources. Wood for they used wood for beds, fires, and many other things. Water for cooking, watering plants and crops, and somewhat drinking, escapes, and unloading and loading the boats. Grass for making rugs and for savages and strangers. If they attack, they can attack back as fast as they can. And now the crops. Tobacco, they planted tobacco because they could get some money out of it, but not a lot. Wheat because people could make flour, wheat cookies, or wheat cereals and other yummy things. And last, protection. Guns to kill savages that interfere with the settlers, or hunting their food because people couldn't go to King Supers and buy food. They had to hunt for it. And bow and arrows. So deer hunting and duck hunting, because it was easy to carry around, and instead of carrying that heavy gun all the time, they could just carry a light bow and arrow. It can be small or large for different sized people. Like kids could have a small one for fun. Adults could have bigger ones for serious stuff. You can store it anywhere because it was so thin, and you can also hang it anywhere because it was small, and you can hang it on beds, chairs, nails, and all of those things. And that is it.
Alright, now we're going to do daily life. Okay, so we're going to start with food. So they ate corn, which is back here. They ate bread. They baked it with wheat, of course. The cake, they would use wheat too and other stuff. They would make their own type of stew, which they put chicken and veggies in it, and also water. And they would eat apples, and they would also eat blueberries too, and duck too. And what they drank was milk. They didn't have like the cleaning system like we do, and water. They didn't, like Lauren said, they didn't have the cleaning system like we have today. And now to clothes for the women. the coat, it goes over your head like a hat, a sort of like a cloth hat, and a shift which goes under the waistcoat. The waistcoat is like a regular shirt, like a long sleeve, like I have. But the shift goes under it, so like they can have, so you see the wide opening? They needed to cover that because back then they were considered as, if they like dressed that, if they would dress like that, they would be like in very big trouble. So they put a shift under it, and so like it's like ripples coming out from it, and they can button it up. And a petticoat is the same color as a waistcoat, but it's like a very long skirt that goes to your ankles. And an apron, they would normally use that for cooking and other stuff. Now for and shoes, they were like black shoes. They weren't that fancy. Like they didn't have fancy shoes back then, but they were like just regular shoes that had the opening on the bottom. Now clothes for men. A felt hat was a leather hat. They can either put a feather on like over here or over here, and a rattlesnake rattle over here, and a ruff like goes over around their neck. It's kind of like neck protector sort of, but there's like riffles coming out from it. And a doublet is their like shirt that has like padding on the top of their shoulders. And cuffs, which these are cuffs, and they aren't actually real cuffs like we do have, but they're like they go over the doublet at the end, and it's just like white, but you can't really see white on a white paper. And breeches, they're like puffed up pants that go like below your knee, like sort of like in between your calf. And then they have garters. They're like a long skinny piece of leather that goes around the end of the breeches to like tighten it up, make them look fancy. And they'd have stockings, which are right here, and those are for their shoes. And I forgot to add the shoes onto here, but the shoes are like leather, like the leather hats, and they have like buckles, like little silver buckles at the end. And so, switching around. Oops. Okay. So, like I said, they needed to make clothes and sheets, and the blacksmith would make the pots and pans for them. And the cause of their death was sickness, because of sickness or full life, and they would normally live up to 30 or below because they got sick. And then jobs. Okay, so jobs. The men's jobs are farming, and they would help with the crops for their colony. And the blacksmith, which what they do, they make metal things for like the protectors of the colony, like swords and guns and stuff. And they would also make pots and pans and like metal spoons, and they would also help make the fireplace, which they have like a big fireplace so they can cook stuff with their giant pot. And so for women, they would sew stuff and to make clothes and sheets and etc. And they would do cleaning around the house too, like scrubbing the floor, making the beds, la la la. Okay, so okay, and that is all.